Hello, I'm Seljadon, and I'm a streamer on Twitch. I've been video gaming since 1992. I focus mainly on RPG, builder, and survivor type games. I typically don't like FPS games. However, Alien Isolation, though not an FPS, has FPS elements to it. This is one of, if not my favorite game to date. For the first few years that I played this game, starting at release in 2014, I would periodically look up videos on YouTube to see what people did. One thing that really struck me was just how many people that titled their Let's Plays videos 100%. Yet they did not actually do what I consider 100% of the game. They would leave out looting chests, items, even check specific rooms, like they wouldn't go to certain places on the map while playing through the game. They would miss the dog tags either in majority or entirely, and they would miss blueprints. This, I thought, is not a true 100% walkthrough. So, this series I hope will aim to be a true 100% of the game. It will be spoiler heavy as well. So, there's the introduction for you guys. Here's the rules that we're going to play this game on. I mean, you don't have to follow these rules, but this is how I play this game. Rules, and these are in order of importance. These rules apply to all difficulties and are designed to maximize survivability. Number one, turn the game music off, not the sound. They are separate. The reason for this is simple. The xenomorphs, as well as the humans and androids' footsteps can be heard. And since we need every weapon, even metaphorical, at our disposal, it makes sense to turn the game music off. One may say, why? I could still hear the footsteps. You'd be correct. However, the further away the enemies are the harder it gets to hear uh, footsteps because the music is on. This will also allow the player to hear when the xenomorph goes in and out of the ceiling, in and out of the crawl spaces, and when it is breathing and making the different various sounds it makes, even if it is not targeted onto the player. I also find that it helps with directional sound detection. Rule number two, do not use the crawl spaces unless you absolutely have to. There are a few that this doesn't apply to because the xenomorphs or xenomorph can't actually get into them unless you let them in deliberately. Why this one? Yes, there is a few places in the game where it is required. However, most of them are only optional treks in any given specific mission. The danger with the crawl spaces, specifically on levels and areas where the xenomorph is present, is that the AI of the alien is broken. This one is going to take some explaining. So, in this game, there are two AIs, or artificial intelligence softwares, running the enemies in the background. First is the AI that runs the xenomorphs, the humans, the androids, and the facehuggers. Excuse me. This AI runs each of the enemies in the game in their particular way of being. Second is what is called the director AI. This AI ironically only rules over the xenomorphs, humans, and androids, but does not rule over the facehuggers or the xenomorph if it's crawling in the crawl spaces and or crawling on the ground outside of the crawl spaces. So you know crawl spaces are the vents. What this AI does is controls whether or not the enemy can come after you, except for facehuggers. The enemy must check off specific checkboxes in the coding before it can come for you. For starters, what everyone calls a glitch is not a glitch. The xenomorph has a very small chance to remain crawling on the ground outside of the vent systems when it exits. However, here's what happens inside the vents with these two AI. If there are one or more crawl spaces in the areas, if the player is in a vent and a xenomorph drops into the same or a different vent in the area, the director AI turns off. Though it is not supposed to, it does not matter how big the inside of the crawl space is. Feel free to test this out in the DLC Crew Expendable. The moment a xenomorph drops into a crawl space or crawls into it, regardless if it is the same one as the player or not, the xenomorph instantly knows where the player is only in the vent system and will make an immediate beeline to the player's position. So this means if it goes into another vent you're not in and you're in one, it will suddenly know where you are, hiss, and come for you. If you do not have flamethrower fuel or even the weapon at hand, like you don't have the flamethrower, and if you don't have pipe bombs or Molotovs, which I would not recommend using in most of them because they will kill the character too, you must find a way out and hide or you will die. That's the second rule. Rule number 3. Do not use the lockers and cabinets unless you absolutely have to. This one has some interesting unintended features with it. However, we will discuss that when we get to them. However, the reason not to use the lockers and cabinets is simple. They are a gamble. There usually are better, safer ways to hide in this game, like under tables, and you have to break line of sight, which doesn't force a mini game where you have a large chance of failure. Because remember that director AI I mentioned earlier? It allows the enemies to make a choice here, even if the checkboxes haven't been checked. There are less than a handful of places I would suggest using lockers and cabinets, though. I will point those out in the specific places. Rule number 4. Do not use smoke bombs or flashbangs. Smoke bombs only work on humans and sometimes on androids. They do not work on xenomorphs. I know there are other streamers who have thousands of hours of speed running this game that say otherwise. However, there are games, their games are in fact modded. Modding does change coding, even if you do not mess with anything specific to the source code. Nor do they work on facehuggers. Flashbangs have a nasty unintended bug associated with them. You can be perfectly hiding and throw one of these at a xenomorph. It will shock it, but it will always turn to face your direction no matter what. Even if you set it down and go hide quietly and just watch, it will turn to face you when the flashbang explodes. This does not mean that it senses you. However, it does mean that it may see you if you're not hiding well enough or you're standing there or whatever. These two things are quite useless. So if you're playing on medium or higher difficulty, I would not suggest even making these unless you have all the other things maxed. Rule number 5. Don't use sound makers or flares. This one is probably the most unenforceable rule of them all because they are useful and can be used. However, despite common consensus of what the coding says, by the way it's being interpreted, the coding, the enemies do not actually forget that the player has used these every time there is a load screen. The more you use these, and as well as anything else you have in your arsenal, the enemy's difficulty slowly goes up to where anything virtually will be useless against the xenomorph. This doesn't apply to the humans, androids, and facehuggers because they all can be dispatched. Well, usually. There's a couple that might get glitched that are immortal androids. I think I saw someone with an immortal facehugger one time. But that could be a mod, I don't know. But normally that doesn't happen. Do not run and only walk when the xenomorph is in the ceiling. This is rule number 6. Or the other enemies, minus facehuggers, are 0.5 away on the tracker or further. The reason for this is if the xenomorph is within 0.6 of the tracker, it will hear you walk, not guaranteed, hiss, and wait to hear more. If you continue to walk after it hisses, it will come running for the noise. The same with the humans and androids, except they only increase the speed of their walk. The xenomorph will hear you no matter what, no matter how far away from you it is if you run. The same with any enemy in the game except, once again, the facehuggers. So those are the rules that I play this game by. And so I want to do a little bit of a discussion for like a moment here about the facehuggers and when the xenomorph is crawling on the ground. So I want to explain something about the facehuggers and when the xenomorph is crawling on the floor when it exits the vent system. The facehuggers, they are a proximity enemy. They do not need to see the player to react. They react based on distance to the player unless the player dispatches them. They will not stop coming for you and can get you guaranteed in lockers and cabinets. Beware killing them, which you have to, causes acid damage to the player. And if you walk over the acid on the ground, it will hurt the player. Now, the acid isn't there forever. It's there for X amount of time. It'll dissipate and then you can walk there, but generally it'll start hurting your character. The xenomorph crawling while outside of the vent has been considered a glitch for some time. However, it's not. Anyway, the xenomorph crawling around basically mimics the facehugger, except it can't be dispatched. If you see this and think you can hide in a locker or a cabinet, think again. It will find you instantly because while crawling, it knows exactly where you are and can get you anywhere without any checks from the director AI. So flamethrower it or throw a Molotov or a pipe bomb at it and make it go away. Anything else will not work. It will not stun it. So there you have the introduction and the rules to how I'm going to play this game. And I will be right back with part 1. We're going to start mission 1. Take care, guys.